Hi, it's Alexis Hasselberger here, time management and productivity coach. And today I want to talk about this concept of found time. We often are saying, we don't find time, we make time. We put things on our schedule that we say, oh, if we find time to exercise, we'll do it. It's not going to happen, right? But sometimes we do find time. And here's how we do it. We find it in the waiting times, right? So we're waiting for our coffee to brew, or maybe, we can enter the world again and we're waiting in line at Starbucks. We are waiting on hold. We're online with customer service. We are waiting in the back of a Lyft or an Uber. There's just a lot of time that we spend throughout the day in these tiny pockets of waiting. And often what we do with this time is, we just whip out our phones and we start mindlessly scrolling Instagram, Twitter, all of that stuff. And we do that because we're bored. It's waiting time. It's not fun. It's boring. It seems annoying, seems like a waste of time. So we whip out our phone. Now we're instantly entertained, but it's still kind of a waste of time, right? Now we've got this time, we've used it for something that wasn't totally intentional. We have just whipped out our phone and started scrolling. So what can we do instead with this time that can actually help us kind of further our goals? So I think we can use it in a couple of different ways. One of these ways is to use it for small tasks. So there are lots of things that we can actually do in 2 to 5 minutes if we look at our task list. And there are things that we can do that can make us feel better as well. So what are these things? It's like, get through a couple of emails, get your inbox down a little bit more, or unsubscribe to all of the junk that's in your inbox right now. Call your mom or your best friend or your sister or your brother just to say hi for a couple of minutes, even if you're waiting in line somewhere. Knock off just a couple of little small tasks, like you had to follow up with so-and-so, or you need to file some papers on your desk. Whatever you have around you, you want to do something small that you can do to just move things forward. The other side of this, if you're feeling like, I already eke productivity out of every single moment, that's not what I need right now in these few minutes, you can take those 5 minutes for relaxation. So can you do a few deep breaths while you're waiting for your colleagues to join your Zoom meeting? Can you do a little short meditation? Maybe it's a pacing meditation while you're in line, or maybe it's that you're just sitting there for a couple of minutes with your eyes closed. But take that time to be intentional about relaxation and stress relief instead of just the mindless scroll. Now, there's also another type of time, and this is what we call a time windfall. So this occurs when, it's not waiting time that you could have anticipated. It is like a meeting just got canceled and now an hour has opened up on your schedule that you didn't think was going to be there. What do you do with that time windfall? So often what we do is we go back to what's comfort, right? We go into our inbox, we go into Slack, we just try to get those messages down. But an hour is actually a lot of time. That's time to make progress on something. So if we get a time windfall, we can also take this a couple of different directions. So if we get a time windfall, we can look at our task list and say, ooh, I was supposed to do this on Thursday, but I could do it today and I could get a jump on things, right? How can we move things up in our schedule so that we give ourselves a little more breathing time later in the week? We can also use this time for planning. So if you don't already have a daily or weekly planning process that helps you to separate the planning from the doing so that you can really execute on things, spend that hour doing some planning. Every minute of planning saves several minutes in execution. So spend an hour planning out your week, figure out when you're going to do things, what do you have time for, etc., and you'll be in a much better position. Now, the other thing that you can do is to use this time for, self-care or activism, something that really fills you up, something that fills your cup. So maybe you've got an hour and you can read a chapter of that new book. Maybe you have an hour and that's just enough time to listen to your favorite podcast. You can also spend this time doing, activism related things that make you feel better about the world. So you could send postcards to voters, or you can, make calls to your representatives and things like that. There are lots of different ways that we can use this time. The key is that we want to be really intentional about it. We don't want to just whip out our phones and mindlessly scroll, because that doesn't actually make us feel better in the end. In the end, if we can use these found pockets or windows of time to actually either be productive or help us reduce stress and anxiety, we're going to feel as if that time was more worth it in the end. And we'll be knocking stuff off of our lists, or de-stressing so that we can show up better for our colleagues and our families. Either way, so much better than the mindless scroll.